We shall go on to our first eminent speaker, Dr. Tanuj Dada, and he is going to be elaborating on something so very important for us again and again, how to get the best of trabeculectomy while giving complications a miss. On to you, doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Chitra. Is my slides visible?
Yes.
So good evening, everybody. So trabeculectomy remains the gold standard as a glaucoma surgery, and that is primarily because it has the best IOP lowering efficacy. And the World Glaucoma Association recommends this as the procedure of choice for previously unoperated eyes. But there is an inherent paradox in trabeculectomy surgery. That is because if the inherent healing mechanism of the eye works, then nature will heal the fistula and you can end up with scarring and bleb failure. On the other hand, if you try to inhibit the fibrosis with mitomycin C, you might end up with hypotony and infection. So the critical issue in addition to the surgery is how to modulate wound healing to enhance success and reduce the risk of complications. Now, if you see the long-term outcome of trabeculectomy, it surpasses any other surgery. You can see 90% survival with topical meds at a 20-year follow-up. So definitely trabeculectomy is a long-term solution for IOP control. And mind you, this is without mitomycin C. And you can see a decade of follow-up with mitomycin C 0.2 milligram per ml. 75% of patients achieve target IOP of less than 18 millimeters of mercury at 10 years follow-up. So definitely trabeculectomy surgery remains a procedure of choice if you want a long-term IOP control. But the question is, how can we further improve the outcomes of trabeculectomy? The first important concept you have to understand is you have to avoid high-risk situations, and the primary indication which you need to be emphasizing is the health of the conjunctiva. So before you operate, have a very nice check on the conjunctiva. It should be freely mobile. It should not be inflamed. And that is perhaps the most important thing when you operate on a patient. Now, if you have conditions such as blepharitis, meibomitis, NLD blocks, or contact lens users, these are all high risks for predisposing to infection, and you should not operate before these are treated. In addition, if you have conjunctival scarring due to previous surgery, pseudophakia, ocular surface disease, diabetes, these are all high risks for filtration failure that you must acknowledge before you go into the patients on the surgical table. Because most of the patients we are operating are on multi-drug therapy, and this causes inflammation of the conjunctiva. It is very important to quieten the conjunctival inflammation. You must use preoperative steroids, and a course of fluoromethalone for 4 weeks can significantly enhance the success of glaucoma surgery. So always pre-treat the patient with a 2 to 4 weeks of topical steroids. In the meantime, you can give oral acetazolamide so that the conjunctiva does not have any inflammation when you're operating the patient. The second important principle is you should try and avoid hooking the sphere rectus as a traction suture. And this is because it is one of the risk factors in this UK trial for a failure of trabeculectomy. And in addition, you can end up with ptosis. So when you injure the superior rectus, you injure the muscle sheath and you can get fibroblast proliferation onto the trabeculectomy site. So better to avoid touching the superior rectus when you're operating trabeculectomy. And if you are giving subconjunctival anesthesia, always avoid the area of the bleb, because if you inject the xylocaine into the area of the bleb and you get a hemorrhage, that itself is a risk factor for failure because that will lead to fibrosis. And another very important concept is that trabeculectomy actually is a misnomer because you are doing a keratectomy. So always make a very anterior ostium into the clear cornea. That will prevent a lot of complications. So here you can see a fornix blaze flap. I'm using a crescent blade. So this is like a SICH, you make a laminar ski flap. it should be approximately 300 microns. And then this is very important to identify the landmarks of surgery. So here you see, you have a clear cornea, and then you have this transition zone of the limbus, and then you have this white zone. So this is the sclera, this is the scleral spur, this is the area of the angle, and this is the clear cornea. So if you want to be safe, your entry should be into the clear cornea when you're doing trabeculectomy. And what I do is I put in an air bubble, do a pre-placed suture, and then make an entry into the air bubble. So you're sure you're not hitting any intraocular structures. Then do your broad basal iridectomy and close the flap with multiple sutures. Now, why you have to be careful? This is the patient. You can see that we are making the ostium after putting mitomycin C. Lambda scleral flap has been created. Now, at time of iridectomy, see what happens. There is a vitreous loss. Now, this is a very important thing to understand. That two issues. One is you are slightly posterior. So I told you always go anterior into the clear cornea and visualize the air bubble. Second thing is this traction suture. So when you are making the ostium, there should be no traction on the globe. And this is especially, this is the patient of congenital glaucoma, already enlarged limbus, and the zonular integrity may be compromised. So because of a posterior ostium and a traction, that led to a vitreous loss. And of course, this is a serious complication. Immediately you have to do a vitrectomy and manage this case and then close. And furthermore, how can you improve the outcomes, especially in advanced cases which have a macular split? Always use an anterior chamber maintainer. You don't want to lose the anterior chamber. Always try to use releasable sutures. And if a patient has got a very advanced glaucomatous optic neuropathy and you don't want hypotony, you can inject sodium hyaluronate into the anterior chamber to prevent sudden loss of pressure. So this is a patient of Sturge-Weber syndrome where you know there is a high risk of a choroidal effusion. You don't want to lose the anterior chamber. So in such a situation, after you have made the laminar scleral flap, you should use a AC maintainer that maintains the AC throughout surgery. And also when you have made the ostium, you can titrate the flow, and it also washes out the inflammatory mediator at the time of surgery. And now you can see the ostium is being made and the anterior chamber maintainer is maintaining the globe. And of course you titrate, and you can also see amount of filtration by using the AC maintainer. Now, one modification that I have introduced into my trabeculectomy surgery is to make a deep scleral pocket. And this is basically to create an intrascleral lake to prevent the fibrosis. So this is a technique that we published as an innovation we call trabeculectomy extra. So everything is routine, but you make a central crater so that aqueous lake can occur. So this is a limited deep sclerectomy. The rest of the surgery remains same. You are basically trying to make a small crater that will have an aqueous lake maintained. So the basic purpose is, in addition to your subconjunctival drainage, you have an intrascleral drainage, and also if you're deep enough, you have some subchoroidal drainage also. This is a technique of trabeculectomy combined with deep sphirectomy. You should use only 0.2 milligram of mitomycin C for primary surgery. Don't use 0.4. You can land up with complications. And there is some evidence that intrascleral application of mitomycin C in high risk cases, in addition to subconjunctival, can enhance the trabeculectomy outcomes. Now, there is often a controversy. Should we use anti-VEGF agents for routine trabeculectomy, not for neovascular glaucoma? The answer is no. Randomized controlled trials have shown there is no benefit of adding the anti-VEGF to trabeculectomy. It doesn't have any impact on the outcomes. You can see the study, the meta-analysis, the bevacizumab had no effect on the outcome of trabeculectomy. So don't use anti-VEGF. The other controversial thing is the use of the Ologen implants. And we tried this for 5 years in RP center, but the results of the Ologen implant are not at all as good as using mitomycin C. You can see success rate of 100% mitomycin C as compared to 50% with the Orogen implants. Second study from Singapore, again, very poor outcomes with Ologen as compared to mitomycin C. And they found actually there is fibrosis within the implant that is stopping the aqueous outflow. And we also tried to use trabeculectomy with mitomycin C augmented with the Ologen implant just to see whether it was helpful. But we found there was no benefit of adding Ologen. In fact, the Ologen group finally had a worse outcome. You can see this ring of steel forming around the Ologen implant. So we have stopped using this in trabeculectomy surgery. And finally, it is very important to prevent bleb complications because these patients are at long-term risk for infection. If you have a bleb leak, blepharitis, if you're using punctal plugs, especially juvenile and pigmentary glaucoma, these patients are at higher risk for bleb-related infection. So whenever you get a bleb leak, it has to be immediately managed. For early bleb leak, you can use oral doxycycline. That is good for managing as a conservative therapy. But once the patient gets a late bleb leak, the only option is to replace the necrotic epithelium with a healthy conjunctival epithelium. And the very simple technique is just to excise the dysfunctional epithelium from the bleb and dissect the healthy conjunctiva around the area of the bleb and then just do an overlay. So you have removed the dysfunctional epithelium and just now you overlay with a healthy conjunctiva. So this is just an epithelial exchange and that can easily restore the integrity of the epithelial barrier. This is another patient, hypotony maculopathy post trabeculectomy due to a dysfunctional bleb mitomycin C induced damage. So here we are raising a laminar scleral flap. So this is a laminar scleral flap. This is Momini's repair that has been raised and it will be reflected anteriorly to cover this necrotic sclera. So here you don't require any eye-bank sclera. This has been rotated anteriorly and then you make a rotational conjunctival flap from the side and cover the area of the conjunctival epithelial defect. So this is a autograft of the conjunctival laminar scleral graft with a rotational flap. And you can see preoperatively the necrotic epithelium dysfunctional bleb and post-op very nicely the epithelial healthy conjunctival overlay with the Momini's repair has been done. So take home messages, always do a preoperative check before trabeculectomy, rule out any cause of failure, risk of infection, blepharitis, NLD blocks. Always quieten the conjunctiva with preoperative topical steroid for 2 to 4 weeks. Never give a subconjunctival anesthesia in the area of the bleb. For primary surgery, use a lower dose of mitomycin C. Don't go above 0.2 milligram per ml for 2 to 3 minutes. High risk cases, try and use a AC maintainer or the sodium hyaluronate, always close with adjustable or releasable suture. You can augment the results of trabeculectomy by making a deep scleral pocket to house the aqueous lake. Give adequate post-operative steroids for at least 8 to 12 weeks. And if there is a late bleb leak, that has to be surgically managed with a conjunctival overlay. So trabeculectomy is definitely a high yield surgery, but it has a high risk and you require a high maintenance. So do your best and then pray for the rest. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tanuj. You so beautifully and extensively covered it all, but I'll still come up with some simple questions. I'm sure it'll help the audience. A very basic question. How would you titrate the tightness of your flap sutures?
So there are two ways. Basically, after you have put the two main sutures, you can inject fluid into the anterior chamber and put trypan blue dye on the scleral flap. So that will give you an estimate of the amount of aqueous that is leaking. Now, if you're dealing with advanced glaucoma, then you don't want much flow, then you use a releasable sutures at both ends. So in that situation, you will get very less flow. And post-operatively, you have to titrate by removing the releasable suture. And thirdly, you can use an AC maintainer like I showed you. And with the low flow, you can see how much of the fluid is coming out. And easy thing is to stain with typing blue, and you can easily see the dilution and the flow of the aqueous.
Murli, you'll ask one question.
Yes, sir. Sir, how do you manage patients with severe dry eyes and ocular surface disease? Can these patients be taken up for trabeculectomy?
No, I think if you have a severe ocular surface disease, then you are going to get a very adverse outcome with trabeculectomy and higher risk of failure, higher risk of infection. So I think you should move to a different surgical modality. If you have a severe ocular surface disease, blepharitis, meibomitis, the results are not going to be good, and long term there is a risk of blebitis, endophthalmitis in these patients.
Another very basic question. You have a flat bleb, IOP is in the low teens, and a deep AC with no leak on day 1. So what would you advise us all?
So if there is a flat bleb on day 1, and so there can be only, the main reason is that you are not getting any bleb formation either due to a leakage, so you have to immediately do a sedal test. If the pressure is high, that means your sutures are tight. So either you have to remove a releasable suture if you have put, or you have to use a laser suture lysis if you have not put a releasable suture. And it is better always to put a releasable suture, because sometimes you have hemorrhage or a thick tenons, and then the laser suture lysis may not be easy, and you can end up with more complications.
Okay. Murli, some more questions?
Yeah, sir, if you accidentally happen to buttonhole the conjunctiva during, like for training surgeons, if they accidentally buttonhole the conjunctiva while pulling it down to suture, what should you do?
No, buttonhole you have to surgically manage. You have to use atovicryl round bodied needle to close the buttonhole, because you have used mitomycin C, and that will lead to a post-operative wound leakage and risk of infection, hypotony. So any buttonhole during surgery has to be tackled right away. You have to close it with a pursing suture or direct suturing.
How would you manage, prevent a dysesthesia after a trabeculectomy surgery?
So I think dysesthesia primarily occurs more if you made limbus blaze flap. In fornix blaze flap, it is much less. The main issue is that to use a mitomycin sponges over a diffuse area. So that leads to a diffuse bleb. If you use a localized mitomycin C, that leads to a bleb with a great height, and that leads to problem. Even if you get a very bleb which is quite high, there's a very simple technique of Paul Palmberg to use compression sutures over the bleb. So that can flatten out the bleb, and you can tackle this bleb related issues.
Dr. Ramakrishnan, I wanted to ask you a question. We've done a transconjunctival suture during AC deformation after a trab surgery. Can we remove these sutures if the IOP spikes happen, or we remain cautious about that?
Actually, I don't have much experience with the transconjunctival suture. What normally I do is, as Tanuj pointed out, if there is any blub related, especially the overfiltration, I used to put compression suture over the blub. Compression suture I used to put.
No, I asked during AC deformation. When you passed a transconjunctival suture,
Yeah.
so would you remove these sutures later or let them be?
No, in such cases, I will keep them for some time. Suppose later on everything is stabilized, then if the patient complains of any irritation or anything, then I have to remove it.
Okay. Murli, some questions? This is a very important topic. We then move on to other topics. Last question.
Sir, regarding late hypotony, if you have a large bleb, there is no leak and there is a late hypotony. So how would you manage? Would you put would you try to suture the scleral flap, or would you inject ologen into that area? I mean, or autologous blood? What?
If you have late hypotony, then that requires a full surgical management. What you can do is if you have an AIOS-ARC or a UBM, you can see what is the level of the fault. Sometimes you have a scleral necrosis. Then you have to plan for a eye-bank sclera. If you don't have eye-bank sclera, you have to do a lamellar scleral flap or Maumani's repair. If the AIOS-ARC shows that the scleral integrity is okay, then you have to do a conjunctival repair. There are two possibilities. If your defect is small, you can just do a overlay, remove the epithelium and overlay the conjunctiva. However, if the area is advanced and the area is very large, then you have to do a graft from the inferior fornix, or if the other eye is PL absent, then you can take the conjunctiva from the fellow eye and do a autograft. So these are the two ways of tackling late hypotony. You have to do a full repair. You can't do with autologous serum or amniotic membrane. You have to do a conjunctival restoration with the healthy conjunctiva.
Is there any role for a cyclodialysis augmented trabeculectomy in high-risk cases?
See, cyclodialysis, actually, we have tried and published also. It is something which is not standardized, and the cyclodialysis cleft often closes post-operative due to inflammation, and you can get a hemorrhage. So I would not recommend that as a routine surgery to augment the success. I would recommend you that you can make a deep sterectomy and create an aqueous lake. That is a technique which is easy and safer. Cyclodialysis may enhance, but it's not a safe technique. So not recommended as a routine for glaucoma surgery.
Have some of our expert panel also done this sclerectomy thing, which Dr. Tanuj-Dada so elegantly showed? Similar experience?
No, we don't have any experience. Yeah.
I think we'll go on to our next speaker. We can always come back to questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tanuj.